Ahoy, fellow Canadian treasures.
And welcome aboard the Joy of Trek, an aged podcast exploring the transporter buffers and mothballed starships of Star Trek. All of it. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
And overestimating how long it takes to edit an episode is your chief engineer, Greg.
Together we're on a mission through the Dyson spheres of Star Trek to find the green in every bottle and the excellence in every episode.
Even the obstinate old engineer.
Because every episode must be someone's favourite, and it might as well be ours.
So show us the Enterprise, no A, B, C, or bloody D, and join us as we annoy Geordi into the
Joy of Trek.
This was not a hard one to guess.
No. I think we got it on the second quote.
Yeah, Greg really did his best to find quotes that, it was almost impossible to avoid the Scotty quotes. Oh,
I mean, there are some zingers in this episode. There's some fantastic, recognizable Star Trek quotes in this.
Writer Ronald D. Moore, huge fan of the original series, had been sort of angling for more opportunities to do things with original series characters. And as the Next Generation matured, this was a Relics we're doing, by the way. This is a 6th season outing. By now, Next Generation was so well established.
Oh, yes.
That they sort of let go.
I mean, it's almost very much later season. They only had one season after this one, so yeah.
Yeah. So by this point, they'd had, let me see, they started off with DeForest Kelley reprising his role as McCoy in Encounter at Farpoint at the very beginning. And you had Sarek and Spock had appeared in Unification. And so now it was James Doohan as Scotty.
Yeah, so who recommended this episode to us?
Oh, wait, hold on. That's not the order that we do things in.
Sorry.
Wait, we have an order of operations.
We do?
Quick, yes, yeah. Because I'm so glad that you forgot. You get to explain what happened this episode, and it catches you by surprise every time, which is how I know it's fresh. So what happened in Relics, Season 6, Episode 4, first aired in 1992?
Oh, gosh. Well, there's a lot of old technology gets explored and abused, I guess. No, that doesn't really quite work out.
I mean, it's true.
Actually, I do have a good one, but that's going to Can I make that a setup for my missing deleted scene?
Are you asking me? Are you asking the listeners at home? That's an interesting one.
I'm trying to think.
Press B on your remote control now if you think that.
If you want K, yeah, I think I can do that. We can probably tie into the whole thing. In which rules, regulations, and estimates are stretched to the limit of their capacity.
Ooh, yes. In which, let me see, an old orifice is forced open and wedged beyond it. Is that not what you're talking about?
No.
No? Oh,
well,
okay.
but I can see why your mind would go there.
Don't get it at all. Anyway, Relics. Yes. October 12th, 1992, written by Ronald D. Moore and directed by Alexander Singer. And it was recommended to us by Kyyanno, who said, I've always loved the engineering side of Trek, from the design of ships to the entirely fictional but awesome systems that make them tick. I've read Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise. Oh, yes, which is part of the Joy of Trek Research Library. I believe you have that particular section.
And it's over there on the table behind you.
And the TNG technical manual from cover to cover many a time. Scotty was my favorite character from TOS and Geordi from TNG, both making me want to pursue a career in engineering while growing up, which indeed they did. To have both characters appearing and working together in the same episode of TNG was an absolute dream for me when it originally aired. Now that I'm older, though, I watch the episode with more experienced eyes. Scotty's just trying to help and feel useful, as he would have been, and yet just gets in the way. At least that's the impression he gets from Geordi, who is genuinely just trying to get his job done, but doesn't quite realize his impact on Captain Scott's feelings. It's Picard's words to Scott in the holodeck, and then to Geordi later on, that all a person wants is to be useful and to feel wanted, that really hit home 3 decades on. Sure, this episode pushes the fanboy buttons, but deep down it also makes us take a look at how we treat those around us who we feel might be past their prime, or how those of us approaching that age might feel. I did always find the, oh no, we're falling into the sun part of the episode. Hang on.
I say we eject the warp core!
Yes.
Don't they miraculously seem to fix everything amazingly in time to turn around and then get out of there once the doors open? Regardless, both Geordi and Scotty save the day, and the engineer in me squeeze with glee at it. Oh, hell yes, Kyyanno!
I mean, there's a lot of that going on there, yes. I mean, as for ejecting the warp core...
Oh, yes.
I mean, I don't really have a warp core to eject. It's more like there's a plasma leak on deck 14, and it's going continuously.
And this is the
shit,
technobabble?
Yes, I mean, just in the cold opening, there's like so many things which are just like face-palmingly bad in there.
Okay, well, let's have another counter running. Do you want to make our engineer suffer like that by making him do another ding every time that you...
I've got quite a few notes down there, which just all like 4 or 5 just before the end for the credits, and it's
Ronald D. Moore was more famous for like his character work and world building than the technology. A lot of which he's straight up admitted, because this is something I really, really respect about Ronald D. Moore, like how open and communicative he is about the creative process. And like sometimes you make mistakes, like the fact that the shields are still up when they beam out. As he later pointed out, I just straight up forgot. It went through 5 editors. None of us caught it.
Yeah, they're 75-year-old shields. Maybe that they've managed to bypass that part of the...
Okay, well, clearly...
I mean...
Apology retracted on behalf of Ronald D. Moore.
Maybe I should have pushed the shields up button here first, but, well, that would have been...
So what did other people think of this episode?
Oh, it's quite a well-beloved episode. Radio Times rated Scotty scene on the holodeck, recreation of the U.S. Enterprise, NCC 1701, as he says, no bloody A, B, C, or D, as the 18th greatest scene in all of Star Trek.
Wow.
With Doohan poignantly playing Scotty as a man who feared he's outlived his usefulness, which is, yes, very much a theme of this episode. In 2019, Den of Geek ranked this as the 4th best morality play within the body of 744 episodes over 32 seasons of the then aired 8 television series in the franchise.
Cricket.
So, yes, quite high praise. They actually got, in 2003, they got Freeman Dyson to talk about this.
Oh, wow.
Who did not take his Dyson Sphere thought experiment seriously. Stated that upon watching the episode that he found the science behind the story was nonsense, but from a TV viewer's perspective, he generally enjoyed it.
Yes.
Which, yes, that was one of my points in the before the cold opening. It's not a theory that he proposed. It was a idle thought experiment. It was not the theory of Dyson spheres. It was just like, hey, wouldn't that be cool?
What if, hey, have you ever had a dream where, but you can, and okay, yeah, that's not a hypothesis, bro. That's
that's not a thing. Yeah, exactly.
That's just having a little talk of the devil's lettuce and seeing where your brain takes you. Much the same way that podcasting works. Hey, thank you, Kyyanno, for this recommendation. I mean, how rarely do we get to do an episode where like this formed someone's not just like moral framework, but apparently their whole career path.
Oh yes. That's indeed very true. And, like, I mean, that's what, like, science fiction in general does to people. It inspires them to think in certain ways.
Yeah, especially in the sciences, soft, hard, applied, and otherwise, which engineering is totally still part of the family of sciences.
What do you mean? You're saying that, like, it's, you can talk about, like, economics or psychology not being part of the sciences if you want to, like, but engineering is, like...
There's a lot of jokes sort of pitting like hard scientists like physicists against and the practical engineers. How many
particles has your branch of science discovered? That kind of thing? Yeah.
One of my favorites is an examination of, what was it, Zeno's arrow?
Oh, yeah?
Infinite divisibility of time. So a theoretical physicist and an engineer are placed in a room with a gorgeous person of whatever gender who really wants some, And the physicist is frozen with disappointment because, time is infinitely divisible and therefore I'll never be able to actually reach them.
I know you missed part of the joke. It's like they're told that every minute they can close half the distance between them and the subject.
Yes. And the physicist is dejected because he knows Zeno's paradox of motion that, we'll never actually reach her, but the engineer is halfway through the room already, sprinting ahead.
Stripping his clothes off.
Why? It's futile, says the engineer. Yeah, but in 30 minutes, I'll be close enough, it won't matter.
Yeah. Fantastic. I want that joke, that is. But yes,
anyway.
It very much captures the thing. Also, we know that Zeno's arrow cannot be longer than, shorter than 1 Planck length.
Oh, yes. He wouldn't have known about the granularity to the universe, which I understand is like one of the foundations of the hypothesis that the universe is a simulation because it's not infinitely divisible and it seems to have like a base resolution.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know enough about universe theory. Is that what it's called, universe theory? I don't know.
I don't know.
I know either. Anyway,
We're
shall
just
we?
getting further and further out of our depth.
Yes, so let's-
yes.
All right, so we open to...
Captain, I have identified the signal.
And it's from a 75-year-old ship, and then Riker goes...
Yes.
Code 1 Alpha 0, ship in distress.
Wait, slow down, mate. It's not going to be super urgent. It's like...
No, if it's waited 75 years, what are the odds that this will be the moment that it's really important?
Yes.
I love how much is just sort of skipped. Right, we just get straight there because we don't need to be, doing something that then gets interrupted.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, that's the whole... Where we need to get to the episode is basically what's happening.
Exactly. We're in season 6. Everybody knows that we were on our way to a conference that doesn't really matter, and now we now we have a detour because of a weird signal.
Now we
that
found
got.
something. So yes, that was the first ding.
Oh, we are doing it. Okay, so that's it.
Well, I just thought that just for the precinct. So then we get...
We have entered a massive gravitational field, Captain.
Yep. Which?
Well, okay, so
Yeah.
Picard
Can you
goes,
localize the source of the gravitational field?
and it's like, oh, I'm definitely...
I'm having difficulty scanning the object.
Oh, why don't you use your, gravitational sensors, to detect this massive gravitational field?
Yep. But no, that's not possible. The
object's enormous mass is causing a great deal of gravimetric interference.
And the gravimetric interference is indistinguishable from nothing, apparently.
Yes.
Despite the fact that it's massive, yes, I understand, Kay. I'm sort of with you. Ding, 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 ding. But hey, I wasn't paying attention to any of that nerdy stuff. I was paying attention to a beautiful woman sitting in the chair next to Data.
Yeah.
This is the introduction of Entron Rager, played by Lene Chapman, whom you know as Damphus from Space Above and Beyond.
Right, yes.
Who is an excellent appearance.
Aye, sir.
I've always loved her voice.
Oh, yes.
A wonderful performer. Very
I mean,
glad
that
to-
was later than this one. Yeah, it was later than this, wasn't it? Like Space Above and Beyond?
Yes, 96. So this
Yeah.
would have been earlier on in her
Yeah.
sci-fi career.
So then we get the next ding, which is the Dyson Sphere itself. What the f*** is lighting it?
Oh, yeah. Well, the same thing that
I
always
know,
lights everything in
yeah.
space. Come on. There's always a nicely diffused sort of light source just hanging
It's coming from
off to
somewhere.
the right. Yeah, exactly.
In the 20th century, a physicist called
yeah, why
Freeman
not?
Dyson postulated the theory that
Yeah.
an enormous
What a
hollow
theory.
sphere could be constructed around a star.
Yes, I believe I read about this as well. Freeman Dyson never imagined it would be solid. He also had some ideas about just the staggering amount of matter required for that.
Oh, yes, because we later learned that the Enterprise can scan, a M-class planet in, what is 7 hours divided by 250 million?
Oh, wait, how do we get there?
Well, that earlier on in this scene, Data says the Dyson Sphere would have the surface area comparable to 250 million M-class planets.
Oh, okay.
And later in the episode, he says it'll take 7 hours to scan the entire interior of the sphere, which means that the entire surface area of an M-class planet could be scanned, which explains how good they are at finding. Yes, we have 14 life forms on the entire planet, sir. Like,
Yeah,
apparently
sometimes
that's just
that works.
and then at other times they kind of have to orbit it or actually.
Ooh, wait. Yes, okay. What is the... we need a new sound effect. What have we got?
I feel strange, but also good.
Okay, fine, whatever. This is a science bit. What is the sort of angle and range of your sensors?
Right.
Because that determines you have to be in a particular place in order to get optimal resolution for a particular surface area, right?
Sure.
Farther away, with the same angle, you get a larger area, but a lower resolution.
In theory, yes.
Right? I mean, that's how, most...
But once you get to geostationary orbit, I'm going to come back to that one later on.
That's
anyway,
okay, that's okay.
That's when you can see half the planet. And that's only 40,000 kilometers away, which is exactly within transporter range.
If you have wide-angle sensors. Now, if your sensor sort of, if your sensor angle is narrower, then you want to be farther away, or you're going to have to do a mosaic of the planet.
Well, yes, of course, but we know that we don't know what the sensor angle is. But
No,
even
exactly.
then, I'm saying when you're at geostationary, you can scan half the planet, regardless of how wide your sensor angle is. That sensor angle is going to be the same as when you're scanning on the entire surface of a Dyson sphere. In which case, you can just look every which way except straight at the planet.
You'd still have to... Okay, so when you're inside... you'd still have to turn around. So the ideal position would be in the middle, but then
Right.
you're
There's sun,
there's the sun in the way, which is inconvenient, but also you're 1 AU away from the surface that you're scanning, and that might be too far for your sensors to get the kind of resolution that you want.
But, Star Trek sensors have magical resolution, like the range needs to be as far as it needs to be for the plot. That's
Yeah, but when they're scanning a planet, it's usually from orbit, so you want that like 1 light second is about the optimum range, and like 8 light minutes
like
that's the Earth, so that's way too far away. So then you'd still have to do a whole sort of scanning pass, and it's a sphere, which is massive.
The Federation's tendency to be so blasé with their power that they just like willy-nilly go into non-stable orbits all the time and has come back to bite the Janolan once again, because they find the ship having crashed down onto the surface of the Dyson Sphere.
Ah, yes.
Also, it's a lot bigger than it looks in this first shot. I mean, it looks like a glorified shuttle in this first shot, but it turns out to be like,
the Janolan.
About like nose to tail on the Janolan is about the height of the Enterprise, which is bigger than 4 stories.
Okay, yeah. So we have a lot to deal with this. Let's deal with there is a really long visual effect shot of the Enterprise flying toward the Dyson Sphere, which I now appreciate because it's like 3 times the length of a standard, the Enterprise is entering orbit, because it's millions of times bigger.
Right, yes. I think that is in fact done to try and convey the size of how massively huge Dyson Sphere is.
Yeah, that it takes ages and ages and ages for it to cross the horizon. The Janolan, I do believe.
Also, I don't think you would be able to see the curvature if you're within orbital length, and if it's literally the size of a solar system, it would just look like a wall to you. So
wouldn't it?
Yeah, because this kind of looks like a big planet size, when in fact it would be just like straight.
I hope the chief has been keeping up with all the dings, because there's a lot implied in there as well.
Right, yes, absolutely true.
Doing an episode with us is sort of like Vulcan sex, which involves various sized gongs. Did you know? I think the studio model was originally like a shuttle for one of the Star Trek films.
Right, and it makes sense. That's why I think it looks like a shuttle. So, but it's bigger than it looks. Riker goes off immediately doesn't even ask Picard, away party, sir. Nope, he just like a good first officer, he just like takes charge of the situation. Because, I guess they know each other at this point, that he doesn't have to confirm whether or not that's something that Picard would want to have done.
Nice shorthand.
Yeah,
they, without scanning the interior for life support systems, they beam aboard and he observes.
This air's pretty stale.
Oh, yeah, fine. It just... Why no protective equipment?
Yeah.
Where are you going in there? How can you smell that air is stale?
I mean, I guess that it just smells stale.
What's stale about 21% oxygen and 71% nitrogen, or whatever the combination
it's just
is?
Other stuff that's hanging around in there. It's when you're on a transatlantic flight, the air in the cabin, it gets a bit stale.
Weird. Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's everybody's farts which are being recirculated.
Yep.
Life support is barely operating.
But the transporter is still running.
Yeah,
I remember. I thought that was absolutely brilliant when I watched this episode for the first time, that they the concept was just being able to lock someone in the transporter beam, and it's just really testament to Scotty's ingenuity. And brilliance,
absolutely.
that he would just come up with something like this. I mean, it's the first time that this was used.
Yeah. And they're marveling at it, Riker and Geordi.
Yeah.
The override is completely gone, and the pattern buffer has been locked into a continuous diagnostic cycle.
And they notice that the signal in there is perfectly intact.
And
there's less than 0.003% signal degradation.
Well, what shall we do? Let's just dump the transport buffer.
Yeah, let's hit play.
Yeah.
And see if it unbuffers itself. You've
got that little, loop icon that you have on your iPod device.
Yes.
It's unselect that, and suddenly when it comes to the end of the song, it just dumps it into the pattern buffer. And
and we get that beautiful sound. And on the transporter pad, there materializes the luminous figure of James Doohan, beloved Canadian veteran of the Second World War, and actor who just absolutely delights in reprising this role. Initially, he was a bit skeptical about The Next Generation.
Oh?
for several years. He was quite derisive of it as just rehashing the stuff that him and his mates did back in the 60s. Until his family encouraged him to watch it, and he found it was actually quite good.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. I've got a little treat. Let me see if I've got it here. I've found a little interview with James Doohan.
Avoided.
Don't you want to be on the next generation? And my answer is, no, I don't want to look that old, So, because then I say, I said, DeForest Kelley, when he was on the pilot there, there wasn't a square centimeter that it didn't have 5 wrinkles in it.
Showing his Canadian metric heritage there. No 4 floors, a square centimeter.
Yes.
Thank you. Always such a delight.
So I noticed that the Jenolan must have been a very modern ship for its time. Because it's got all the I don't know what they're called, but basically the touchscreen panels. It's like it's in age it's much closer to the Constitution class Enterprise.
Yes,
but
this is a fun sort of hybrid that I think later got used in Generations. In Generations, we see the Enterprise B, where Scotty is also on board, and it also has these kinds of interfaces.
Right.
Like a blend between the tactile knobs and buttons of its era and the LCAR system designed by the Okudas. But yeah, that hybrid system.
LCAR, that was it, yeah.
Oh, yesterday's Enterprise features the Enterprise C. I think that was a previous episode on the Next Generation. And that also had like that sort of hybridized kind of design.
Because now, and this is where good thing that you mentioned Generations, because after the credits, we get to the point where first Scotty tries to...
Oh, we got to get Franklin out of there.
Someone else's pattern is still in the buffer?
But alas, his pattern has degraded more than 50% and he is gone.
No.
I'm sorry.
So am I.
And now it's time for introductions.
Yes. So we are from the Enterprise.
The Enterprise? I should have known.
And this is where we come to my, little pet peeve.
All
I
right.
bet Jim Kirk himself hauled the old gal out of mothballs to come looking for me.
Yes, I saw him getting sucked out of the hole by in Generations, and I can't imagine why he didn't come to find me now.
Yep. Ronald D. Moore, one of the writers on Star Trek Generations, copped to this immediately. Yes, but in the episode you wrote, he said, yep, I know this. I absolutely knew that it was wrong as I was writing it, but I still really wanted to have Scotty on the Enterprise B. And we'll just establish that he was a little loopy. There was a 0.03% deviation, and he may have just lost the memory of witnessing his best friend's death.
Very good.
Oopsie whoopsie. And also his sexual interests are slightly changed.
Okay.
We won't say in which direction. Wink.
Okay. Wow. I had no idea. Which one? Hang on. Whose? Scotty's?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot can happen in 0.03%.
Sure.
There is some racist tension between Scotty and...
I mean, is it really racist? Or, I mean, back in that time, they were still at war with the Klingons, so it's like...
I know, judging someone based on race, right?
Well, judging someone based on being from a nation, from a geographical entity which you're at war with, that's not necessarily racism, I would say.
Oh, I mean... It's
not because he's a Klingon, it's because we're at war with them.
But it is because he's a Klingon. Right, those sentiments are indistinguishable, and no, I understand what you mean. Racism is very bad. We all struggle with it as a society. But good people can be racist. You can have lots of racist attitudes.
Sure.
I think that it's okay to call it that.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if it's racist that has a more negative connotation to me than I'm wary about someone because we're at war because I think we're still at war with them. That seems like.
I mean, he's even introduced, he's wearing a Starfleet uniform, and Scotty is just...
Lieutenant?
Well, actually, he isn't introduced. Scotty's reaction is immediate as soon as Worf walks onto the bridge.
Yeah.
Riker sees that.
Yep.
And he goes this is Lieutenant Worf.
Yep,
and
immediately.
Then,
Lieutenant?
Yes.
Just to things have changed. I mean, he also knows that he goes wait, when was the Klingons? Oh yeah, and this he is the first Klingon in Starfleet, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes. So even by modern standards, he is a bit of a outlier. So he can he immediately cottons onto the fact that Scotty might be a little bit apprehensive about there suddenly being a Klingon here.
Yeah. Although we did see, 1989, I think it was, The Final Frontier, where Scotty was sharing some scotch with Ambassador Kempek.
Okay.
General Cord, pardon me.
Well, I mean, a little bit of cordiality, especially when there's whiskey around.
Yeah, exactly.
So, being back to the Enterprise.
And he's had his arm in the sling this whole time, so Riker suggests...
We should probably get you to sickbay.
But...
Dr. Crusher will want to have...
Changed the resonator array.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's a nerd. He's just going to want to nerd out.
Well, he's just learned he's on a 75-year newer ship than he's used to, so... I mean, an engineer can want to look around and check those things.
Uh-huh.
Although in my experience with engineers, they do tend to be nostalgic about old technology more than excited about new technology.
Yes.
I mean, that is a bit of a young man's game. I mean, I guess that's also addressed in this episode. Doing the new stuff is a young man's game, and keeping the old stuff running is more of an old person, nostalgic old people thing. This
is really valid, because this is also the reason why Ronald D. Moore chose Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because Uhura was also available, and George Takei could play Sulu, and you could have Chekhov. Any of these characters could have been brought back, but he was looking for interesting dynamics with existing members of the crew.
Yes,
right.
I can see that. Yeah,
character conflicts. Like Geordi, he's a chief engineer. He's not necessarily engineering isn't necessarily his only passion. He started off with a red uniform, he was on the command track.
Oh yes,
on the Enterprise at first, and when they had a rotating rogues gallery of chief engineers in that first season.
Yes,
versus Scotty, who never wanted anything else. He just loved machines and making them work. So they come at this role from two very different positions. For Geordi, he wants to get the job done. And for Scotty, there's a great deal of sort of romanticism to it.
Oh, yes, very much so. As they are walking through the corridors, there's a bit of a walk and talk between Scotty and LaForge.
Oh, yeah.
Where basically we get the backstory of what happened on the... Why do I keep forgetting the name of that ship?
The Dyson. Oh, the Jenolan.
Jenolan.
All right. Here's something fun. It's a Sydney-class ship.
Yeah.
Called the USS Jenolan.
Yeah.
Named for the Jenolan Caves near Sydney, Australia.
Oh, very clever.
Which Ronald D. Moore was visiting. Okay, so he went to I think it was a Star Trek convention called Holodiction.
Wow, that could go so wrong.
Yeah, I know, right? And then he got taken out clubbing, where his vigorous dancing earned him the nickname of a rager, right? A party animal in Australian slang, hence Ensign Rager.
Ah.
And then the next day, he was nursing a hangover while getting a very impressive tour of the Jenolan Caves in Sydney, and this was the big tribute to his hosts in Australia.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah.
Yes. So he gets taken to sickbay, where he gets checked out by Crusher.
Yeah. We've had a moment of geeking out, where Geordi asks,
what in the world made you think of using the transporter pattern buffer to survive?
Yeah, we didn't have any alternatives, matey.
Yeah, and he calls it brilliant, but Scotty says...
Well, I think it was only 50% brilliant.
Because,
it was 50. The idea was brilliant. It was 50% successful. There's a different...
Yeah.
But I can understand there's a little bit of survivor's guilt here. Because, the one thing that you're forgetting, for him, this was 10 minutes ago.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he was... We were standing side by side.
Exactly.
So
I must admit to being a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, totally valid. In sickbay, he's quickly wooed.
Yes, it's a little fracture ache a bit for a few days, but you'll be fine.
Well, I'll say this about your Enterprise. The doctors are a fair sight prettier.
Yeah. Gives you this lip too, but whoa, when...
Forrest Kelly yelling at the screen, boo! You didn't see it, but I was wearing heels the whole time. It was awesome.
Yes, at least we're not getting any sexist remarks that about thinking that she might be a nurse or anything. That's...
Oh, as coming into this episode, I briefly thought about shall I make some fun inferences about archaic attitudes, but that's unfair towards this beloved character and the time that he's from, because that must have been quite a difficult thing to deal with.
The one thing that I kind of missed is that there's no little gag in there, or at least a comment from Scotty about why does the computer sound like Nurse Chapel?
Other than a few bumps and bruises, I'd say you feel fine for a man of 147.
And I don't feel a day over 120.
There's a slight little bit of fanboying from Captain Picard, but notice how stately Captain Picard is.
Oh, yes.
He's welcoming towards Scotty, but You are a guest and a passenger, and I have a job, and that's very important. This
Right.
sort of.
He does take a little time out to give his regards.
Yeah.
And then later on, when he actually gets off duty, he immediately goes to check up on him. So, yes, absolutely.
Well, I would very much enjoy the opportunity of hearing you talk about your career. I'm sure you would have some fascinating insights into the events of your time.
A sort of establishment of where the deference is supposed to go, because by this time, Next Generation is the successful show.
Yeah, I mean, it's been going for twice as long as the original series had at this point.
And, oh yes, when Picard invites him to tell more stories, then Scotty says,
I'd be happy to.
Because at this point in the episode, we're about we're about a quarter in, he's already had more lines in one episode than he ever had in any episode of Star Trek, the original series.
Wow, yeah.
I get to talk even more. Oh, my Canadian guild rates are going up, so they are.
Oh, that's a good point, yes. I guess that makes sense. But yes, Geordi excuses himself, or at least tries to.
Engineering? I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah. Like, oh, no, I'm sorry. There must have been a little bit of miscommunication here.
Oh, yes, please. No.
I promise I'd be happy to give you a tour just as soon as the doctor says it's okay.
And you can see the disappointment on Scotty's face there.
Yeah. This is something that I find quite recognizable. But when I saw this episode as a young person, I found it recognizable as well. You know, here are old people imposing themselves when clearly I'm giving subtle social clues.
I'm intimately familiar with that, yes.
And I realized more and more, getting older and watching these people like growing older themselves, how that's not just willful cluelessness. Like that's also, they're giving very strong social signals back. Right. That what I'm hinting at is not acceptable and they want something else.
Right.
And they're doing that in a way that still preserves my dignity and everyone's. And it's kind of forceful and pushing boundaries, but it's also like the same kind of communication that I'm trying to do.
Right. Okay. You get a perfect example of that in the next scene when he's been shown his quarters and marveling at the size of them.
Good Lord, man. Where have you put me?
These are standard guest quarters, sir. I can try and find something bigger if you want.
Bigger? In my day, even an admiral wouldn't have had such quarters on a starship.
I mean, which is kind of like, okay, now we're going back into Strange New Worlds territory when, like, no, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the Captain's Quarter in Strange New Worlds are even bigger than these are.
0.03% will do a number on your brain, won't it? I did just today see a little edited meme from just this episode exactly, where he goes to the holodeck, right, and the door opens and it's the Strange New Worlds bridge. And he goes, what the fuck? Oh yes, just like I remember it somehow.
I like that, yeah. But yeah, you get the same thing with the ensign here. Is it an ensign? 1 pip, so I guess that's one solid pip, so that's an ensign, I guess.
The holodecks, 10 forward, and the gymnasium are all at your disposal. The computer can tell you how to find them. Until we issue you a comm badge, just use one of these panels if you need anything.
And then Scott goes into a sideline about something that happened on Aldebaran 14 or...
The stereotypical, like, talkative gentleman at a checkout line.
Yes.
This exact change thing reminds me of... And this is why I've learned that some shops offer a take your time line.
Right, yes.
Where,
where they put the chatty cashier.
Yeah. And like well, there are a lot of people for whom doing the daily shopping is a significant social experience.
So you don't get responses like...
Excuse me, sir, but I have to return to duty.
And he gets left, and there's quite a long shot, actually, where you just kind of like standing around looking forlorn, checking around his quarters before he sits himself down.
I guess I'll just go and sit in this chair.
Until, he gets it, the burr up his tail, and he goes to engineering, where he interrupts Geordi in doing his job.
Yep.
Oh, I don't think so, lassie, but I'll let you know if you can.
And yes, I mean, he intervenes and he goes like, oh, well, hello, nice to see you here. I'm kind of busy working here.
Yeah, see, this is the one thing that actually kind of bothered me about the writing of this episode. Mr. Scott has been established as being so, like, he's so passionate about his engineering work. He loves reading technical manuals on his downtime. That's his recreation. So, like, he would know all about certification for certain equipment, and that you do not touch something that you're not certified.
You just like pull open the dilithium chamber to have a look at the
right. From week to week, you don't assume that it still works the way that it did. You go onto somebody else's ship.
Yep.
That it would be like, I would consider it totally in character, even at the time, knowing very little about like I hadn't seen the original series at the time this came out. But that he would have that kind of respect.
You don't just touch another man's warp engine.
Oh, no.
You're not without asking.
No. It's like... just fondle someone's ample nacelles. Oh, fingering his crystals. Oh.
Wow. Yes. Working the destabilization matrix of the phase lock of the warp field by more than 3%.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we find out. Like... There's something on the wing. It's an engine.
No, it's fine. It's like we
use a multi-phase auto-containment field now.
It's meant to operate about 3%.
Oh, well.
That would make the difference.
Yeah.
And then he launches into something that we've seen. Because he's talking about...
I remember a time when the old Enterprise was spiraling towards Psi 2000.
Oh, that's the one with the two guys stuck in the time tunnel, or what?
No, that's when everyone was off their tits on space water.
Oh, right, yes, the Time of Our Own, or whatever it was called.
The Naked Time or the Naked Now. We always get it wrong. Chief, which one is it? Yeah, we're never going to remember.
Okay, so the way that I would say that you'd remember it is the Naked Time is the TOS one. That is the... we go back in time and do nothing with it. That is the time one. The Naked Now is, oh, look, we're so clever. It's the Naked Time, but now. That's how I would say to remember it, that Naked Time, time travel. Naked Now, oh, it's now. Look at how clever we are. I'm sure that was a Roddenberry decision. That feels like a Roddenberry thing.
Oh, also misremembering, he's taking credit for something that Spock was ordered to do by Kirk.
Oh, yes. Well, he was doing the engines at the time, which he also had to like restart really quickly at exactly the right moment, and thereby sending them 3 days back into time, which never ever got anything done with. But at least we established that's like warp engines can time travel.
Yeah.
Which kind of is, I mean,
handy.
Well, it's also kind of true, you know, because if you like just FTL travel is in fact time travel.
Yes. Because if you arrive somewhere faster than, although, wait.
Causality can.
No. Because like one of the interpretations of warp travel is that the ship doesn't move, but the space that the ship is in moves.
Right, but information still travels faster than light.
But that's okay.
Is it?
If the distance is not... like a wormhole is perfectly legal because the shortest distance between, you know, one side of the wormhole and the other is, you know, it's still subluminal.
Okay.
And if the light traveling within, right, nothing's actually being violated. Space doesn't have to have a particular shape.
Right.
It's just you can't traverse whatever shape it is, right?
I've tried to look into this,
I
like
know,
whole thing, especially when it goes into light cones and stuff like that, and it gets really complicated really fast.
And that's even just the simplified version that we get to learn about.
Yeah,
not the real complicated. Like one of the things that when I learned, E equals MC squared. Okay, that's cool. And then I remembered in high school, wait, but E equals 1/2 MV squared.
Yes.
Where did the half go? And I tried to like get super high with a bunch of friends and like figure it out several times and it never worked out. It turns out that that 1/2, it's actually a really complicated like field scalar or Lorentz value or whatever. It's just most of the time it's pretty close to 1/2.
Especially on Earth.
Yeah, if you stay away from light speed, it's usually about 1/2, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. So now we get to one of my favorite exchanges in like, well, maybe all of the Next Generation. It's
whoa!
It's a famous scene. It's like where Scott is giving LaForge a little bit of advice.
Starfleet captains are like children. They want everything right now and they want it their way. But the secret is to give them only what they need, not what they want.
Yep.
This is such a huge divergence in their professional attitudes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I told the captain I'd have this analysis done in an hour.
How long would it really take?
An hour.
Yeah. And B'Elanna's even worse.
Yeah.
Or even more extreme in that regard, right?
Yeah.
How long?
I told you 30 minutes. It'll be damn well 30 minutes. Like I will not be stepped on my professional honor by the implication that I am padding my repair times.
Right. And the captain goes, "I need it in 4." No, I said 6 hours. If you count on 4, you will fail.
Yes. Yes, it's
the implication that she's always extremely hardcore.
Yeah, but yes, the famous line.
Oh, laddie, you've got a lot to learn if you want people to think of you as a miracle worker. Now listen, Captain Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where Geordi loses it. Like he gets his patience is stretched too thin.
Yep.
I've tried to be patient. I've tried to be polite, but I've got a job to do here. And quite frankly, you're in the way.
Yep. You're in the way. You're slowing us down.
Yep.
As, honestly, a seasoned engineer should know.
Yes.
Right?
No, true. I mean, he's clearly still dealing with the fact that he is going off to retire on an old man's planet, old people planet, you know?
Yeah.
He's clearly, I mean, again, it goes back to that for him, this was like, okay, not 10 minutes anymore, but a few hours ago that he was still scanning the Dyson sphere. Probably also excited that there was still something to do. You know, it's like instead of this little boring cruise towards his retirement planet, there's like, oh no, we found the first encounter of an actual Dyson sphere. Like, let's do some science.
Yeah.
And then suddenly,
Also, 2 hours ago, I came up with a brand new use of the transporter that's never been done before or since, 75 years later.
Exactly.
It's still an innovation. And now, well.
I was driving starships while your great-grandfather was still in diapers.
Never know that was a 3-syllable word.
It's not. It's nappies.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too.
It's
yes,
nappies. Oh well.
But yes,
you've got Scottish being written by an American and spoken by a Canadian. What you gonna do?
Make it up as you go along. So instead, he goes to drown his sorrows. Off to 10 forward.
Yes, where he walks through this crowded bar where Lieutenant Commander Data is sitting at the bar, staring out at nothing, past people who are not
at the back of a person who's having a conversation with someone else. Yes.
Sitting completely motionless. Like, what were you doing?
I mean, yeah. I mean, they say that some people belong to part of the furniture. So when they're in a bar, I mean, Data might just be people watching. He might just be doing his thing, where he's just like trying to see how people interact and trying to make him be more human. I mean, that seems like a reasonable.
Yeah, and everybody's used to him
just sitting there being a little
creepily
bit
eyeing
them.
No,
it's fine. It's like he's not creepy. He's not trying to be creepy. He's just like he's just observing. You know, that's like it's just Data. Don't worry about it. So yes,
they really wanted to get Guinan here.
But she wasn't available for the
Alas,
time.
yes. This was like peak of her career. I mean, imagine Whoopi, you're Whoopi Goldberg, and you've got like 2 like top 10 movies coming out every year, right? It was Sister Act, it was Ghost, it was just relentless, and you're still making time to come to a dinky little Canadian or a Californian television show.
Well, I mean, she specifically told her agent to get me on that bloody show. You know, it's
yep. And not just as a guest extra, like she would recur and she would show up, but unfortunately she was not available for this scene where.
So we get a very handsome bartender anyway.
He is very handsome. He's got that. Oh, what's he dressed like? He's got a sort of checkerboard pattern in green.
Reminds me a little bit of that juggler guy on the planet of the mud baths.
Oh, that's brilliant! Yes, like he's just eaten his last world.
Yes. Well, no, this one's still working on it. He's like,
Scotch, neat.
Okay, this annoys me a little bit. I understand that they can't like name brands or anything. I mean, but it's like you don't just like. You only order just Scotch in movies. No, you order a Abelor, or you order a Macallan, or you order a Lagavulin, or
and you order the Scotch if that's if you're in America, right? If you're very far away, because you know what they call Scotch in Scotland?
Whiskey.
Yeah, because that's what whiskey tastes like, the way we like it here. And you know what they call Irish whiskey in Ireland?
Whiskey?
You
spell it with an E.
Yes, there was
the
H and the E. Anyway, like the different orthography, but also what do they call Chinese food in China? Food. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes you want to be very specific that I'm looking for whiskey of Scottish origin, so I'm going to call it Scotch because I think Scotch is better than American whiskey by a long shot. Personally, I don't know the difference between Irish and Scottish well enough to have an opinion there, but Scottish whiskey versus American whiskey, no question. No, not a single bit of argument for me.
But he is not pleased.
No. Daddy, I was drinking Scotch 100 years before you were born, and I can tell you that whatever this is, it is definitely not Scotch.
Yeah, that sort of lends credence to the idea that replicators, woof. They just...
good point. Yes, they're just like, I mean, okay, now I cannot imagine that replicator scotch or whiskey just tastes like, Glen Grant or something, like, the cheap less than 20 euro a bottle blend whiskey.
You go for a glass of wine, you get your Card Bordeaux.
Yeah, exactly. You get
fresh from the tap. Just squeezed out of a plastic bag and into the scanner. There we go.
Because according to data...
Captain Scott is unaware of the existence of synthahol.
Which and by Scott's look, it's like he actually considers that a bit of an affront,
But I even love the way that he shows up. Like he interjects himself with,
I believe I may be of some assistance.
Yeah. It's like, oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Yeah. Nice.
Lay her down and smack him, yak him.
Very cool airplane reference, bro.
Thank you. You jive turkeys ain't got no brains anyhow. So he asks...
You're not quite human, are you?
No.
What, the gold eyes and the non-standard complexion didn't give it away?
Yeah, I mean, it could just be a weird-looking alien,
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I believe Guinan does keep a limited supply of non-synthaholic products. Perhaps one of them would be to your liking.
I've never seen a clean bar like that in any bar. But I guess, like, most of them don't have replicators, so that's fair enough.
I like the idea that he, in order to get to that bottle, he had to move aside the hugely illegal shotgun that she keeps under there. I'll just move that to the side.
The one with two settings, and we only get to see setting one. Yes.
And we get a replay of an original series gag where he puts down this bottle and he's asked,
"What is it?" It is.
Yep.
And he has to sort of sniff it, and then he, with great confidence,
it is.
Wait, no. And the only thing he can say about it is...
It is green.
I believe in the original series it was Romulan ale or something.
Oh, was it?
I think it was, yes. And in this episode it turns out to be Aldebaran whiskey later.
Yes.
And I wonder what they cask it in then to get it that colour.
Aldebarans.
Well, I assume Aldebaran is the planet or the star system that it hails from.
Assumption. I don't necessarily think that you have to make that assumption. It's just... I kind of like the idea that when they call something, Taldarian whiskey, it's
cast in Taldarians. That's not. I mean, okay. In Scotland, they use oak casks, which give it like the brownish color, or the golden color, depending on how long you leave it in and what the cask has been used for before.
Just being silly, Kate.
I know.
It's kind of my thing on this podcast. You know the things, and then I just.
But now I want to know what kind of. I mean, maybe it's like some kind of. I mean, Aldebaran, like oak or wood or whatever they have. They make their casks out of that. And that instead of giving the brown color. I mean, it's the home brewer in me who sits there.
I was going to say,
sits there wondering, okay, how do they do this?
I wasn't going to dox you. I wasn't going to throw you under the legal bus that you were doing some home chemistry for research purposes. Didn't you in fact get some shavings from a barrel when you went on your pilgrimage to the Isla area?
No, I think I tried. No, I didn't get any one of the actual barrels. I tried to nick one of the staves from a barrel that one of the guys was taking apart, but he wouldn't let me have one.
No.
So that was unfortunate. But I do have some bags of various oak shavings which have been toasted, or actually chunks of barrel which have been run through the shredder. And I've got a few bottles jars stashed away, which have been sitting around for a few years. They should be. They're getting actually quite palatable at this point. So.
Ooh.
If you like whiskey, that is. I mean, the problem is you can't cheat age. You can try it, but it doesn't really work. You can just really have to just let them stand around. I think the oldest one is about 5 or 6 years old at this point.
Maybe that's the thing with replicators, that they don't sort of match the complexity. That there's that they take the simplest composition that gets you to a flavor. But let me see. What did I recently have? Oh, I just had some poop coffee.
Oh, right. Sava, keep Kapai Lubra, no.
So this was barley coffee. It was wild coffee. So, harvested from actual animal droppings who've eaten, and not just civet cats either, but who've eaten coffee beans. Okay, and it's a popular form of coffee down there that a lot of people drink. You just, you wash the poop up, you grind it up, and...
Right. I mean, it goes through a fermentation cycle, I guess, yeah.
And you just drop it in hot water, and you let it steep for a bit, and you don't drink the grounds because it's all gross.
Yeah.
But, even not knowing much about coffee, I can identify, this is a hugely complex, robust flavor with lots of components.
Yeah, nice.
That are interacting with each other, very different from the supermarket coffee that I'm used to.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I couldn't articulate how they're different, but I can understand like that.
That they are, yes.
Yeah. And that this might be your experience. If you eat a meal out of a replicator, yeah. Like, if you were going for hummus...
It's kind of lowest common denominator of whatever the recipe is that you were asking for.
Right, yeah. You know, a hummus is mostly texture and a little bit of flavor, and you instantly know when something's hummus or not. But, like, the good hummus has a lot going on.
I mean, like, apparently they got it right for the chocolate sundaes, because, like, I mean, the way Diana tucks into those, that's like, you can see they're going like, chocolate sundae.
Maybe she's like me, and she's like a simpleton who just likes the cheap stuff.
Right,
There's a lot of it.
She likes the Cadbury's cheap chocolate rather than the...
Yes! Oh, koetjesreep! Koetjesreep chocolade!
It's not even, they can't even legally call it chocolate here. It's called cocoa fantasy in this.
I know, but it's...
The fantasy is that there's actual cocoa in there, I think.
They're called little cow bars, and it's
I
great.
know.
And they're cheap, and you get them as a treat when you're a kid, and your parents want you to shut up.
So, Scotty, slightly into his cup, so I think about a third of the way into the bottle at this point, goes to do the last thing that was recommended to him by the ensign when he was shown to his room, which is visit the holodeck. And in his nostalgic mood, I guess he's a bit of a sad drunk.
Yeah, he looks dour.
That's very good.
The Enterprise. Show me the bridge of the Enterprise, you chattering piece of...
There have been 5 Federation ships with that name. Please specify by registry number.
NCC 1701. No bloody A, B, C, or D.
And yes, we get a gorgeous shot of the old Enterprise bridge.
Yeah. Now, this was a bit of like production and visual effects brilliance.
Oh, yeah?
Because this was like the original script even asked for him to be interacting with like holographic representations of Kirk and Uhura that turned out really to be prohibitive.
Yes, I can imagine.
But even this, like, they weren't going to rebuild a whole set. Like, the budget wasn't there for that. So what they had was they realized that if they could get an establishing shot from the original series somewhere, then they could do this. Now he's blue screening into this shot from...
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that.
There's one episode where Kirk is alone on the Enterprise, and he's briefly out of frame, just long enough for them to loop those 3 seconds over and over again.
So you got the blinking lights and...
Exactly.
Oh,
and then they built like the turbo lift and 2 side panels. But those 2 side panels, you know, each of them has a controller. You could replace the artwork behind them and move them next to each other, so you could film from the side. And now the 2 side panels are on one side, and now they're on the other side.
Oh, very clever. He pours out a drink to the old comrades.
Yeah.
Here's to you, lads.
And then he goes and sits and reminisce at one of the consoles until interrupted by Picard.
Yes. Who was,
I was just coming off duty, and I wanted to see how you were doing.
Oh, so much dignity and grace in his voice in this.
It's like, we have him here. He's like, I mean, Picard is also, he's a bit older than LaForge is, so he's probably got a slightly better grasp of dealing with people of a slightly more advanced age. You know, family members.
And himself as well.
And himself, yes.
He's speaking to another seasoned veteran officer of many trials who, will you have a drink with me?
I don't know what it is exactly, but I would be real careful. It's real.
Picard just goes, next it.
Yeah, that's, for whiskey, that's quite a lot to be, be downing
absolutely.
In one...
Because turns out that it's Aldebaran whiskey and he gave the bottle to Guinan. So he's more than happy to have that drink with him.
Looks around at the Constitution class. Oh,
you're familiar with them?
There's one in the Fleet Museum.
That's like, you can see, like Scotty guy, like, yeah, right about that. I mean, he establishes a certain, distance in that regard with Scotty.
Yeah, he does return.
But then, of course, this is your Enterprise.
Yes, and they have a little reminisce about their first loves, like how this Enterprise was the first ship that Scott was a chief engineer on, and how the Stargazer was Picard's first command.
Yep.
So they have a little toast to their ships.
Old girlfriends will never meet again.
Yeah.
A very meaningful toast where... So this was apparently, the green stuff in here is called Ecto Cooler.
Okay.
It was a sort of citrusy drink by a brand called High C, which was branded for Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay.
And then rebranded a few times and turned a bit yellowish. But so it's quite a sour drink, apparently.
I mean, that's good. It's like it helps you make the right face for when you're necking a full shot of this.
And it's a Cuervo 1800 bottle, so probably tequila by the sound of it.
I would have gone with tequila, yeah.
Tequila. There's only one L.
Oh, yes, of course.
With a little bow tie around it. And Picard brings Scotty into the present, asking about the Enterprise. And
she's a beauty with a good crew.
But
yeah,
when I was here, I could tell you the speed that we were traveling by the feel of the deck plates.
And Picard should be relating to this because, he's mentioned that he used to be able to hear the alignment of the positron sensors.
I mean, and on lower decks, they got the scene where they're going to, oh no, it's more like, I know there's a semitone higher on the but yes, and he goes he realizes that that Scott might be. I mean, what he tells Geordi later, my man likes to feel useful, and he offers him to would you like to study some technical schematics? I know you like technical schematics. He's probably looked up. He's probably did a quick little cliff notes of Montgomery's bio.
Oh yeah, the Scott's HR file.
Exactly.
If you ever borrow one of his technical manuals, always spray it down with Lysol first, because But he says,
I'm not 18. I can't start out like a raw cadet.
Yeah, and what I love in this shot, it's the look of deep sympathy and realization on Picard's face.
Yeah,
as Scott comes to terms with his the situation.
Yeah, because he talks about this is the ship that I belong on, where was home.
This is where I had a purpose,
and it's not real.
Yep,
it's just a computer-generated fantasy,
and I'm just an old man who's trying to hide in it.
Yes, and
walks away.
Again, the look on Picard's face, but true to his nature, Picard immediately starts to do something with that because he calls in LaForge and goes hey, I've got a. Well, he doesn't use those words, but it kind of comes to, I've got a personal favor to ask.
Oh, he says it
Look, this is not an order.
No.
It's a request, and it's one that you must feel perfectly free to decline.
Yeah.
Right. So, you'd better not.
There is kind of that a little bit. I mean, he does have his authoritative voice. I mean, just listen to his dictum.
Mr. Forge, I understand that before the Genolan crashed, it had conducted an extensive survey of the Dyson sphere.
It's already buttering him up. Before the Genolan crashed.
Right,
the Dyson sphere. Maybe he knows what his diction does to Geordi.
Right. Because, it's he knows those systems better than any of us, so he would be of great help in you getting that information out of the memory core.
Because...
You see, one of the most important things in a person's life is to feel useful.
And he wants to give that gift to his celebrated fellow officer who deserves it.
And he goes all right, I'll do it.
Meanwhile, on the bridge, they discover...
There's an antenna array approximately 400,000 kilometers south of our present position.
That's not very far away.
No, that's
about a light second.
400,000 kilometers is about distance. No, a little bit more than that. Isn't that about the distance from Earth to the Moon?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep.
But just before they go to the largest glory hole in the universe, they go to LaForge and Scotty beam off, go to the Genolan.
Yeah, Scotty's a wee bit delicate. And late, because Geordi has been pacing back and forth, and...
So they've not really... Never get drunk unless you're willing to pay for it.
So they've not
the next day.
They've not really moved very far, have they? Because, transporter range is 40,000 kilometers, and the glory hole is 400,000 kilometers. So they can't have really moved that far away from the Genolan. Because
is it 40,000 kilometers?
It's established in the episode where Riker goes, commands the Klingon ship. Because, you have to wait until 40,000 kilometers to start shooting at them, because Riker knows that 40,000 is the transporter range at which they can beam the captain off.
Oh, my God. Do you remember those numbers, you nerd? You unbelievable. Oh, where's the button that... Yeah, nerd. Nerd alert, nerd alert.
I'm coming, Neelix.
I feel strange, but also good.
I need more sound effects.
Were you just pressing all the buttons there?
I was. And he says,
Energize.
in a much less, fun way than Beverly does it, and they find themselves on the Genolan just in time for a lot of shaky on the Enterprise.
Yes, because they hail the what they assumed is to be the sensor array or the antenna array, but it turns out to be, well, literally, as Riker calls it, the doorbell, because the moment they do so, the door stands to open, the Enterprise gets seized.
Helm, get us out of here.
Real thrilled, he sounds like. The camera is shaking everywhere. He says,
Helm, get us out of here.
Like, whatever.
We've lost main power. Auxiliary power down to 20%.
Yes, because the resonance frequency of the tractor beams is incompatible with our power system. So they basically, it shuts them down. Yeah, whatever.
Yep, it's just bad for us.
Yeah. And they get launched, flipped out into the inside of the sphere, which looks gorgeous.
It looks really cool.
Massive cities, like landscapes, there's cloud cover.
It's gorgeous and enormous.
And they get launched jointed on a track towards the center of the star at the center of the sphere.
I hope you don't like sleep, because you're not going to get much in the way of night.
Good point. Yeah.
Right, I think this is where, Larry Niven's Ring Worlds, in addition to having a ring around the sun, also had just these floating panels.
Yeah, the vessel was a second ring, which was partially open and partially closed, so that they could to create a generate a day-night thing. Yes, which is like much easier solved than orbitals, because you kind of like have them rotate around one axis as well, so you can like generate a day-night.
Oh yeah,
so you have them spinning around the equator for gravity. You also have to have them rotating around an artificial pole, I guess, to make sure that one side is in the darkness and one side is in the light the entire time. So yes.
But oh no!
The inertial motion from the tractor beams is still carrying us forward.
And with the engines offline,
we're falling directly into the star.
They are in trouble. But first we go to the Genolan. The two of the engineers are busily working to get things up and running, to get the information thing.
Blissfully unaware that the rest of the ship is in danger.
Geordi is being a little bit pedantic about like, oh, look how much things are still the same.
Is that the vibe that you got?
Yes.
I don't know.
Like, he's trying to be accommodating, but to me it comes off a little bit as pedantic. It's like,
okay, yeah.
He's trying, but it's like he's not doing it intentionally, but that's just how it comes off to me. He's like,
Scotty is being very sad. He's talking about
equipment was designed for a different era. Century out of date. It's just obsolete.
Yeah, and you get a real sense that he's as much talking about himself here as as about the ship. Yeah.
But then Geordi, and I think much in the way that you talked about the very familiar sight of engineers becoming real excited about like the good old, like older inventions that really still hold up, and marveling at the ingenuity of the time.
Well, that's interesting, because I was just thinking that a lot of these systems haven't changed much in the last 75 years.
And you can call it pedantic, but I feel like that sense of wonder now that he's walking around on a ship that was, if this was my ship, I'd keep it running just like this.
Yeah, very good point. Yes,
I wouldn't be disappointed by how old the components are.
I see what you mean. Yeah, it's like,
they're fine. Yeah,
but if it wasn't for all the structural damage, this ship still might be in service today.
Excelsiors are still in service.
Yeah,
right. They're older than the Genolan.
We used to have something called a dynamic mode converter. You wouldn't have something like that on your Enterprise, would you?
I haven't seen anything like that in a long time. But I bet I might be able to come up with something similar.
Which they find out is gone.
Yep.
Where's the Enterprise? Come in, please.
Nope.
On the Enterprise, there's a little bit of drama where they just about managed to use the maneuvering thrusters to get the Enterprise in orbit. So basically what they go is like, here's another little beep.
Ensign, port thrusters ahead full. Starboard thrusters back full.
Okay, so you want the ship turning around on its axis? Yeah, exactly. Like, that's not going to like change your orbit anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they have a very tenuous relationship with orbits in Star Trek, I've noticed.
Yeah, well, it's difficult enough to begin with, and then you get into super relativistics. You don't even know about super relativistics. You just know about regular relativistics.
But they managed to get in a more or less stable orbit, and which is an actual orbit now, because it's like it's doing its own thing, and it's not requiring constant power to maintain.
There we go.
let's see. So and on board the Genolan, they managed to do a little bit of deduction and like think that like, oh, maybe they've just gone inside the sphere. Let's just track them by their impulse trail.
Yeah, but they'd need the engines for that. And
Are you daft? The main drive assembly's shot. The inducers have melted. The power couplings are wrecked. We'd need a week just to get started. But we don't have a week, so we've no sense in crying about it.
There you go.
That's where we have like it's so ingrained into him to lie about his repair times.
Yeah.
That even at a moment like this, he's like, oh, God, I can do it in like an hour. I'm like, wow, we'll make it a week. You know, it's like
it really bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we're Dutch guys.
Yes.
So transparency and honesty is really sort of key to our, like, it's a chief virtue for our culture. But
especially as a project manager, I can, it's like...
So, okay, what you're saying is you always lied. Now I'm going to anticipate that.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm going to go like, oh, I can do it in 6 hours. I need it in 3 because I know that you're lying about it.
Yeah. Why are we doing this theater?
Very unhealthy dynamic.
But oh no, speaking of unhealthy...
Sensors show that the star is extremely unstable.
Oh no, we're in trouble. Yeah, this was one of those B plots in search of an A plot.
Right.
Right, the idea of a Dyson sphere or some kind of collapsing orbit or whatever had been kicked around a few times. And like here, oh yeah, we'll just use that one. We need a B plot with some science stuff for, the nerds, the unfuckable ones. Back on the Genolan, the engineers are trying to get the engines working.
Yes.
And oh no, we've got to use this tank, but
The tank can't withstand that kind of pressure.
yeah.
Where'd you get that idea?
And like
just bypass the secondary cutoff valve and boost the flow.
Because Geordi is quoting a regulation which he himself, Scotty, had written.
Yes.
And he says...
A good engineer is always a wee bit conservative, at least on paper.
Yeah.
And how many good engineers died because they believed your estimate and didn't try a procedure that would have saved their life because you denied them the knowledge?
Yes, like...
This is hugely toxic.
Oh,
You're
yes.
not a miracle worker.
This is bad corporate culture. This is like, unicorn behavior in organizations,
yes.
Like hoarding information. Yes, no, absolutely.
To make yourself look special and feel relevant. Like, I'm coming around on Scotty, actually. He's always been a piece of shit. Now we get to look at his record and just think, oh my God, there's an awful lot of like self-destruct sequences that wouldn't have been necessary if he'd just been honest about these regulations.
Yes.
We have to reevaluate ourselves as anyway.
Right. Basically...
Mr. Wolf, can we use the phasers to open a hole in the sphere?
No, sir. The exterior shell is composed of carbon neutronium. Our weapons would be ineffective.
Weapons?
Yep, so that's not going to happen.
Shields are up, but only at 23%.
The star has entered a period of increased activity. Sensors indicate that the solar flares will continue to grow. In 3 hours, our shields will no longer be sufficient to protect us, sir.
Yeah.
And the ship's in danger.
And they were going to look for like a population, but there turned out to be nobody because that whole B plot sort of doesn't really matter.
Out on the outside, the two engineers have tracked the Enterprise and they found a glory hole.
Well, God. Well, there's a captain and an engineer, but the captain says...
I may be captain by rank, but I never wanted to be anything else but an engineer.
And thank fucking God, because can you imagine, like, a captain making these estimates and like, oh...
Or maybe that's why they only made him captain after he was his final promotion.
The Peter principle, that you get like promoted up to the point of incompetence.
Well, I mean, it's usually that you towards the end of your successful career, you often get an extra little promotion right at the end to give yourself a little bit more salary and a little bit more
a pay rise before the
exactly that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or just in name, It's like we never really expected him to do anything with it. But yes, Geordi manages to piece together like, but what if they just like followed procedure and those things aren't like radios, but like maybe they effectuate the thing because, and here comes another ding.
Okay.
Look at the momentum distribution of the ion. It would take an impulse engine, full reverse, to put out a signature like that.
So they didn't go in willingly.
Oh, well, so they didn't go in willingly, but like an impulse engine running at full reverse. No, it's an engine. It can only run in one direction. It can only accelerate. It can accelerate in one direction or in the other, but it's still acceleration.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. But let me see where we're going.
There's this picture.
No,
of, like,
I know.
There's a picture of a car, and it's got like normal people. It's got like a steering wheel, and then the gas is accelerator, and then the brake is brake, and then the exactly same picture, and it's like what engineers see. It's like the steering wheel is accelerator, the gas is accelerator, the brake it's accelerator, because it's all acceleration.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this isn't The Expanse. We don't like see the Enterprise sort of cruising along on its momentum and doing a full 180 and then hitting the same engines, because that's how engines work in space.
Yes, exactly. And like if you can just like back out, I mean, it's not like you have a reverse gear that you suddenly have to like.
No, I've got it. They've got deflectors.
Oh, yeah?
They want the front of the ship to be pointed in the direction of motion at all times, because then your deflectors do the best work. That means that if you want to decelerate, then somehow your accelerating engines have to be redirected.
Right.
So whatever the sort of redirection system is, that's got to be detectable.
Well, we've never established really how impulse engines work.
Oh, thank God.
I mean, I know, well, like
half the episodes would fall apart.
In the warp engines, it wouldn't make, because like in warp engines, they kind of create a warp bubble, which then serves a warp wave or something. So that should be able to work in any direction that you'd like. You know, so it wouldn't give you a different pattern in the. But apparently, impulse generates ions, and like ions get really excited when they get like thrown in the wrong direction, and well, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, never mind. It's like,
well, as Uhura said, things got to have a tailpipe.
Sure. Yeah. They decide to keep their distance and move out, and then
this is actually pretty cool. Like here, they've realized like synthesizing those experiences, because in Scotty's day, when you see an antenna on a strange thing, you do hailing frequencies.
Yeah, and that's still the same procedure.
75 years later, that's still standard procedure, and also still same frequencies. And like just by coincidence, those frequencies happen to be the one that triggered the autopilot on this Dyson Sphere system that is completely destructive.
There is no auto land on Galactica.
Call the ball. And
I can get a few extra gigawatts out of these babies.
1.42 gigawatts.
At least they're gigawatts and not gigawatts, right?
Gigawatts.
Because Scotty's idea is to use the Genolan as a wedge.
Yes.
To keep the door open.
So massive conclusion jumping from Geordi that...
Yeah, well, we could probably trigger the hatch ourselves, only we'd get pulled in just like they were.
Like, it's a lot of assumption about like how this procedure works, but you know, but fortunately it works out just as they planned it.
And the biggest thing is like getting crushed by those doors, which Geordi is rightly worried about. And Scotty, and I love James Doohan's performance here. Like,
Scotty,
it's crazy, Geordi. I have spent my whole life trying to figure out crazy ways of doing things. I'm telling you, as one engineer to another, I can do this.
Knowing nothing about the force that those doors are opened or closed with.
But you've got to guess, right? As someone who's familiar with various technologies, like you've got to sort of guess at the envelope of possibilities.
Right.
And
I mean, you know, back of the envelope calculations are often surprisingly accurate. Like, you know, it's like, you ask questions like how many dishwashers are sold in the country every, and you can go like, well, you know, dishwasher loss on average, there's this many households. So, and you can, if you do a little bit of ballpark figuring there, you often get surprisingly close within the actual results.
And like, this exercise is often done with like teaching people command techniques, right? The ability to make decisions. And so you get 15 seconds to figure it out. Actually, you get 5 seconds to figure it out, give your answer, and then you get 5 minutes to sort of think about it even further and work it through. And then after that, you sort of look it up. And then you realize that people who have a lot of experience with command making decisions do a really good job integrating a lot of these guesses very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Versus people who are perhaps more versed in precise sciences. People who you'd think have more expertise don't necessarily score higher in these tests.
Right.
Because it's about like balancing a huge superposition of lots of possibilities. And that's something that really, really benefits from experience, like Scotty has.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Yeah.
He doesn't need to know much about these. He's been in hundreds of these situations and come out on top. So he can make this claim.
That's just survivor's bias.
Well, partly, but that's included in the decision-making,
of
right?
Of course, yeah.
These are the kind of things I keep coming through, so I think that I can do this one as well.
No, very good point.
And like he's trying to convince Geordi as a captain, because that's the roles that they have.
Right, yes. They managed to wedge the Janolan in the doorway.
It looks really cool, this door, by the way. You keep calling it a glory hole, which is a fun sex thing. Yeah, I mean, it'd be a bit scary. Then we usually have, teethy
padded edges,
doors like these.
But they managed to signal the Enterprise and it's like, we're holding the door open.
Oh.
Get ye on it.
Yeah, that's convenient. Just what we needed just when all of our shit's working again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, we have managed to get our engines back online, and we are now heading out of here.
Understood. Ensign, set a course.
And, it's beautiful. These are the TNG remasters, and it's so gorgeous.
Oh, it looks fantastic, yes.
The Enterprise D lit by this sun, and you can see speaking of glory holes, you can see the corona. Oh, the shaky. Oh, no.
The plasma intercooler's gone. The engines are overheating.
Oh, shaky.
Pyrotechnics are going off.
Yeah. And they say that, oh, no.
Captain, we're not going to be able to move this ship out of the way when you get here. You're going to have to destroy it in order to escape.
Despite the fact, and this is sort of like end of Titanic, right? Rose sitting on that door, as if there's not enough room for Jack. Yeah, there totally is.
Yes.
But
prepare to beam 2 from the Janolan as soon as we're within range.
Yeah. Oh, sound effects. Oh
yeah.
Going there. Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow. These are some wild sound effects we're hearing.
They blast the Janolan, and I mean, I think they could have cut that a little closer. That's like they
yeah.
There's at least a good 5-10 seconds of flying before they get to the
and the doors are closing to
quite rapidly.
1/5 the distance that they had before, but it's an excuse for the Enterprise to pop a fucking wheelie.
Yeah, squimsh through.
It's amazing. Flying, like rotating along its axis, flying on its side. We didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, imagine that, a spaceship like having only one orientation.
It's so cool. Ensign Rager and Data do an excellent job on helm and navigation, or maybe they're both at the same time. I don't exactly know what the one on the right does, honestly.
It's always a bit weird.
I mean, it seems to be described as ops, but why does ops need to sit in front facing the screen?
I don't know.
Anyway, it looks really cool, and as Lene Chapman looks amazing in that
she does.
Gorgeous uniform.
Now we have another walk and talk of Montgomery, Scott, and Geordi LaForge, but now it's LaForge who is regaling old war stories.
Yes.
So this alien space baby, which was about the size of a 4-story building, really thought the Enterprise was his mother.
Oh, you're pulling
so he's
an old
American
man's
then.
leg.
A small boulder the size of a large boulder.
Yeah, that's a classic. Okay, so I really get a kick out of this walk and talk because James Doohan has this face of delighted interest.
Yes.
That is just this rictus of glee that he's been holding steady, like continuously. His face must be in agony from holding this expression. Get to the point, yeah. Get to the point, yeah. Why am I listening to this story?
Oh, you soured the milk.
Yeah, and it's delightful because that is indeed how Geordi described it in that episode.
Oh.
Oh, enjoy these times, Geordi. You're the chief engineer of a starship. And it's a time of your life that'll never come again.
That hit really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Even as a young person, like that confrontation with, whoa. Yeah, like I'm 75 years ahead of this person. Like I can see that their time is over and it is my time now. But I'm going to be old one day too. Yeah. And someone else is going to get to be young, and like time moves on.
And yes, the other people are. I mean, that's the way of life. Yeah,
it's fleeting, and it's a gift that we get from people with more experience, and that we can give to the people with less experience.
Speaking of gifts.
Oh,
they've gotten so sick of and tired of Montgomery Scott that they go like, "Oh, just go fucking replicate him a shuttle," and like, you really need to get him out of here because like this is not.
Print him one of the little shuttles. A large portion of the command crew is gathered in the shuttle bay.
You're giving me one of your shuttles?
Wait, no. Sorry, I realized that us standing in front of here may have sent the wrong signal. No, we just. Whoops. Sorry to get your hopes up. But no, they do indeed give him one of these shuttles.
Indeed. And so now you can go to your Norpin colony thing, but no.
The Norpin colony is for old men to retire. Maybe someday I'll end up there, but not yet.
I've got my little ship, and I'm going on a little trip.
Oh, well, he shakes hands with everyone. Deanna gives him a kiss, despite the fact that they haven't had any scenes together, and she hasn't even had any lines.
No, good point.
There was a cut scene where she comes to his quarters. And tries to get him to talk about like his feelings here and explain what counselors do. Mm-hmm. And he's really quite upset. Oh, you're a psychologist. Geordi sent you here to manipulate me with your booby wiles. No, thank you. And he's really quite upset. But so, yeah, this kiss on the cheek is sort of a rapprochement for a little conflict that we never actually got to see.
All right. That's a nice one. I would never have got that as my deleted scene, but...
Well, no, this is an actual deleted scene. I know. Okay. And Worf and Scotty sort of nod at one another.
A little begrudgingly.
No handshake. No, pointedly avoiding that. Yeah. And it goes both ways, which, hey, here's a fun bit of trivia. Later, in Trials and Tribulations, the excellent DS9 episode where they achieve what was hoped for in this episode, actual interaction with archival footage, we learn from Worf that one of the most blooded periods in Klingon history was the invasion of the Tribbles. Entire planets were sterilized to stem this threat, and that they're still considered the deadliest enemies the Klingon Empire has ever faced. It was Montgomery Scott who beamed them onto the Klingon ship at the end of The Trouble with Tribbles. Right. He is the one who caused devastation to countless Klingon worlds.
Wow.
So this little glance between them, this little old man's racism and a Klingon's wariness, like, if they only knew how they've harmed one another, actually.
Right. I mean, like, that's actually kind of surprising that it went that wrong because, like, we know how Klingons deal with, infections, like we've seen the Enterprise episode where it's like, we're just going to blast them out of the water. So like the ship that got infected with the Tribbles, I'm kind of surprised that they managed to like get them offloaded to another Klingon ship without there being.
Yeah, true.
So, yes. All right.
They do say that
she's not much to look at.
And he goes,
Laddie, every woman has her own charm. You just have to know where to look for it.
And he adds,
but I've always found that a ship is only as good as the engineer who takes care of it. And from what I can see, the Enterprise is in good hands.
Yes, final little compliment towards Geordi.
Yeah. And a passing of the torch from the original series to the next generation.
Yeah. Well, one of several.
Yeah,
I mean,
as if this was needed.
That torch has been like handed back and forth several times.
We've been on the air way longer at this point, but yeah.
Actually, that reminds me of there was an interview between, now I can't think of her name, basically Starbuck and Starbuck. Dirk Benedict and...
Chief, what Cara phrases? It's not Tricia Helfer.
No, that's 6. Anyway.
I am so frustrated and disappointed, Kaki, that you forgot Katie Sackhoff's name. I haven't even seen BSG other than that one episode that we did of the original one for the Patreon episode. I haven't seen any BSG, and I know it's Katie Sackhoff. I'm so disappointed in you, Kaki.
So yeah, basically they're having a little a little talk together, and Dirk Benedict goes like, "Well, I played Starbucks first," and she goes like, "I played him much longer." You got like 2 seasons and a little bit, and then
and Galactica 1980 that none of us really talk about. Yeah. Actually, no, it was only Battlestar Galactica only had 1 season, didn't it? And
then they had to do the 1 season, then the 80s, which was like half a season in total before it got canned.
They had those sort of hover scooters.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And it was basically the Galactica Boy Scout department or Boy and Girl Scout department being taken to Earth. Essentially, that was roughly what it's been.
True. I remember something about them jumping real high.
Yeah, because apparently they're from super high, like they superpowers, like, because they're much higher gravity on Galactica and like whatever. It's
whatever. Yeah.
So, what did you think was
so fucking cool?
I mean, James Doohan. No, it's got to go to the bridge construction, which was done at an incredibly like affordable budget. Let me see. Oh yes, here's something really cool. They paid like $1 to rent a fan-recreated command console with the chairs and everything.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
That they had to pay for it because, it's rental. But, like, this dude who, had it in his garage reconstructed, like, brought it to the stage in his own van, like, took care of everything, and then got to take it back again. And now it's been screen used.
Put it on Screensaver 4.
And just the passion and energy that went into it from the director, Alexander Singer, who was also a veteran director. And, like, he used to direct episodes of Mission Impossible across the street from the Desilu Studios where Star Trek was filmed. And he always kind of wanted to do Star Trek. And he never got to meet Gene Roddenberry until finally he got this shot. And just the love that went into finally sort of connecting the next generation, or once again connecting the next generation to the original series.
This was before Generation, so that was the actual. So yeah, they started doing it at this point. I mean, they started with DeForest Kelley in Mission to Farpoint, but so they keep coming
Spock
back.
had appeared, played by Leonard Nimoy.
Yes.
How about you? What did you think?
I'm gonna have to go with the Dyson Sphere because, like, even the fact that it's the practical engineering is. I mean, even for a super advanced technology, the material engineering in building either a Ringworld or a Dyson Sphere is insane. But still, the whole concept idea of it's just so.
Also, where do you just get the matter?
Well, you break. Generally, you demolish a few star systems.
A few other star systems.
Yes.
Yeah. Planets wouldn't be enough.
No, absolutely not.
Woof.
So that would be mine. Okay.
We have more segments.
I have to push, I have to push another button, don't I? Yeah.
You have one job on this ship. It's stupid, but I insist on you doing it.
Captain's log, supplemental.
Where we imagine a scene that was left on the cutting room floor.
Oh, I really don't want to be mean. I mean, it's so tempting to, like, imagine all these scenes where he does a horrible faux pas based on being old or coming from a time where other things are.
Well, I've got one.
Oh, let's have yours then.
It's right at the end, like where Geordi takes him, walks him through the corridor, and then when the door opens, it's not a shuttle bay, it's a court-martial where they're having him for falsifying Starfleet Regulation 42/15, causing untold deaths by people.
Yeah! 14 ships could have been saved. Oh my God, the damage you caused has exceeded that of the entire Borg collective. They only destroyed 87 ships. My God. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. 1,000 deaths from Montgomery Scott. The engineering corps is tearing down his statue as we speak. Oh, no. Now I've got an idea.
All right, go on then.
That he takes the ship out and immediately realized, oh no, I need to put her down somewhere for like a proper repairs. I've got to do some spanner work. So where's the nearest I can set down? And it's Deep Space Nine. And he bumps into O'Brien, and they really hit it off. And they become totes science besties, engineering besties. And they're both sort of bitching about Geordi LaForge and what an uptight asshole he is.
Yes, I'm totally down with that.
Yeah, and they have a little sleepover where they stay up later than Keiko should actually let them, and they're sort of huddled under a blanket with a flashlight, reading technical manuals and giggling.
And then later Worf shows up and is like, "Oh, you again?
You again? Like, what the fuck? What the? Also, wait, what? How did that work? Okay,
all right. So, as always, our chief engineer has laid us a little trail of breadcrumbs to hopefully lead us to what.
Next time on an all-new episode of Star Trek.
And Justice Kyyanno, and thank you so much for this recommendation. And what a wonderful thing it is to, like, see this episode through the eyes of someone who was, like, career was informed by it. And hopefully, like, the person who recommended this next episode at joyoftrek.com/links will get a little thrill about recognizing these clues. And should you want to recommend an episode that's maybe relevant to your personal life, to your life experience, or that you think is really cool in a way that not everyone appreciates, please let us know. joyoftrek.com/links. We've got a handy-dandy form, and we'd love to hear from you. Now, let's see what the chief has selected for us based on clue number 1.
Listen to me very carefully, because I'm only going to say this once.
Ooh.
Coffee. Black.
Hello, season 2 episode.
Do you not hear the cries of an old woman? It is I, Leclerc. Okay, yeah, this is sort of narrow casting at people who are familiar with particular brands of British sitcom. Clue number 2.
Isn't anybody going to sing Hail to the Chief?
Is that Hail to the Chief?
Yes, that's the little President of the United States leitmotif.
Oh. I'm not getting any closer. Like, there's something irreverent about this that sort of feels like Lower Decks.
I'm going to see Coffee Black. It's like, I don't know, Picard maybe? I don't know.
It's a Janeway thing.
Oh, really? Right, yeah.
Janeway likes her Coffee Black.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
But, like, I'm only going to say this once. It's really hardcore. And Hail to the Chief. Let's see.
Well, it didn't work out quite as black and white as they imagined.
He's doing a voice.
Is he? Isn't that, I mean, that would be another episode of TNG, which is where, like, the aliens, which are, like, half black, half white.
As they imagine. Or is it Professor Chaotica? Is it Rabbi Chaotica?
No idea. Like another Voyager episode? Is
from Captain Proton.
Right,
which is in black and white.
Oh, of course, yes.
I don't know how to tell you this, but the wedding's off.
Okay. Oh, I think it is. I think this is Bride of Chaotica.
Oh, okay, very well.
Let me get this straight. Transdimensional aliens have mistaken your Captain Proton simulation for reality.
Okay, I think you are absolutely right.
Last clue.
One more thing. If you have trouble with Chaotica, or you can't get to the death ray, you can always uncork the pheromones.
Ooh. Uncork the pheromones.
Okay.
Well, I think you got it
Put
well.
Put it in the machine. Yeah, let's find out.
Oh, we've finally done it. We finally broke the curse. We have a fun Voyager episode because it is Voyager 512, Bride of Chaotica.
Yes!
Excellent.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Thank you to whomever recommended that one to us.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, yes, please. Fun Voyager.
Right, which leaves us only with one thing to do.
I'm leaving Starfleet.
Energize!
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode with your friends Kay and Kaki, production and editing by your chief engineer Greg, and music by Fox Amore. Join us next week for Not Ready by TFA Loki Rider, followed by Bride of Chaotica, Voyager 512. Visit joyoftrek.com/links to send us recommendations, support us on Patreon, or to find us on Blue Sky. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to The Joy of Trek, and we'll see you out there.